I told you this could happen. Another Western country could follow the United States in introducing citizenship-based taxation. That means you pay tax if you live there, but even if you leave your country, your citizenship will make sure you still pay tax. That's what one candidate for prime minister in France wants to do. She wants to copy the U.S. citizenship-based taxation system. We're going to tell you the story. We're heading to the airport here in Wales. We're tracking down my ancestry and filming a video on that. Leave a comment if you want to hear more about ancestry and citizenship by descent. But here's the headline from France. Prime Minister candidate wants to tax French abroad as America taxes its expats. Lucie Castet proposes a wide-scale fiscal reform for our country. Now, whether Lucie gets into office in the top job or not, this is now out in the ecosystem. I've told you about some of the left-wing politicians in Canada, like Jagmeet Singh, who have intimated or outright suggested, hey, why should you get to be a Canadian and not pay us, even if you don't live here and use the roads, bridges, all of that? Australia is kind of sort of backdoor creeping towards this, where there's certain ways that you can be an expat and there's certain ways they don't like as much and they reserve the right to come after you. But now they're outright saying it in France. The candidate, endorsed by the left-wing alliance, wants to bring a focus on a fiscal overhaul. So they mismanaged their money and now they want you to pay, but also implement a swath of social policies. So there's Lucie. This is the Nouveau Front Populaire. My grandmother's the French major, not me. The left-wing candidate for the role of prime minister has promised a major tax reform if she becomes France's next PM. The candidate announced that she endorses the fiscal reforms included in the manifesto of the NFP, that's this front, the left-wing alliance of parties, which endorsed her as a candidate last week. Now, obviously, this is a news story. By the time you're watching this, Lucie could be in, Lucie could be out. Who knows what Lucie could be doing? But among these changes, which include more tax bans for wealthier individuals, so you've heard about new sky-high tax rates if you live in France, with an increase in the number of tax bans from 5 to 14. Try and keep track of your taxes in 14 different progressive tax bans, and a return to the old-style ISF wealth tax, which pretty much every European country got rid of as unworkable years ago. Also proposals for French citizens living outside of the country to pay more tax to France. Now, we've talked in the past how most French citizens can't go and live in Monaco, unless you're quite old at this point. You can live there as a French citizen, but you can't get the tax benefits. Javier actually made a great video about that on our Nomad Capitalist R&D channel. But outside of that, if you are French and you live in France, as most French do, you always had the option. You could move across, as they did a little over a decade ago, to Belgium. That wasn't a big savings, but it was a savings still, back when they were talking about 75% tax rates. You can move anywhere in Europe as of right, as a European Union member country citizen. You could move to Ireland and be a non-dom, Malta, Cyprus, and be a non-dom. There's plenty of countries in Europe that will offer you a deal, or you could move to Dubai, the Cayman Islands, Malaysia, wherever you want, and get a great tax deal there. And the issue is that every European country pretty much has what's called residential taxation. If you live there, if you're a resident, everything that you earn from all around the world gets sucked into your local tax return. Now, if you pay tax somewhere else, there may be treaties or credits, but just in general, all of your worldwide income is subject to tax there. And so that differs from a territorial system where if you live in Panama, for example, what you earn in Panama is taxed in Panama, but if you have investments somewhere else, that's taxed somewhere else. So you can have a wide range of investments and have a very low tax rate, if any tax rate. So what a European country like France would do is, hey, we're going to tax that Singapore dividend income because you live in France. We don't care that Singapore doesn't tax it. Bring it into your French tax return, but then you can leave. That was always the difference. People confuse residence and citizenship taxation. Residence, you can leave the system. Some countries make it harder than others. There's talk in some countries, now it's the Netherlands, of, hey, we're going to follow you around for a number of years and, either make sure you move to a certain country that we approve of. A lot of the Scandinavian countries do that, where if you don't move to a country that they like, then you have to keep paying on certain things for a couple of years. Mexico does the same thing. But France, in this proposal, is this. We also need tax expatriates to pay their taxes to the France tax authorities in the same way American expatriates pay their taxes to the U.S. tax authority, literally quoting the U.S. system. The same system, by the way, the United Nations said when done in the African country of Eritrea was inhumane. If you do it in the U.S., if you do it in France, you're A-OK, and they will get away with it, and nobody will say a word. Now, the word expatriate in this case means you just live overseas. In theory, one would think, and we'll see what comes of this, renouncing French citizenship could be an option. This is why I tell people, if you live in a Western country, you want to have some second citizenship, because there could come a time when, even if you don't live in the country, the mantra will change from how are we going to pay for the roads and schools and bridges that you use to you just have to pay. And it's going to be, you're one of us, so if you don't pay, you're a traitor, and we're going to make you pay. This is not the back door. I've told you. Some of these countries will do a backdoor approach. She is not taking, she's coming right in through the front door, this Lucy, and saying, we want American-style citizenship-based taxation. France would be effectively the second country in the world that does this on a full basis to all of its citizens. Currently, many U.S. citizens moving abroad have to file income tax returns in the U.S., even if they receive all of their income outside of their country. Apart from some lower earners, Americans have to file a tax return no matter where they live. The article goes on to explain the foreign earned income exclusion, but if you're a high earner, if you have dividend income, if you have crypto income, I mean, those are things that are not as easy for Americans, even if living overseas, even if not spending a single day in their country. If you carry the passport, or even if you don't have a passport, but you're just still a citizen, that they can get you one. So, the article explains the motivation. Left-wing government would raise 150 billion euros from taxes. Ms. Castay makes no secret of the fact that taxes will be raised to fund the NFP's manifesto. And so they want to give a bunch of stuff away to buy votes. They want to fill in the gaps of how they wasted your money all these years. And what have I told you? There is so much more competition now than there used to be. It used to be, you're from France, where are you going to go? Right? They closed off the Monaco option decades ago. Sure, you could go to Geneva, you could go to, Vaud, you could go to somewhere in Francophone Switzerland. But there are so many places that you can go now. You can go to the Caribbean, you can go to Central America, you can go to places like Uruguay in South America, Chile in South America. Southeast Asia has a number of places. The Gulf has, of course, opened up, and they're very friendly. And Europe has a number of friendly tax programs. Most of the European countries got rid of their wealth tax. So the competition of places you can go is much different than before, and it's much different than when we were just kind of sitting by saying, oh, that's nice, they're wasting our money, but hey, we're France, we'll always make it. Western countries are not always making it by default anymore because other competitors are coming in to eat their lunch and to take their part of the market share. You cannot win by default anymore as a country. You actually have to do something good. You actually have to generate something for the economy. France is one of the largest economies in Europe, but it's been, in many ways, mismanaged. So this is why I've told you, not just Americans, but other Westerners need a second passport. Now, if you have ancestry somewhere else, there may be a claim to that. That doesn't have to be just in Europe. We've had people who were born in the Caribbean, or their parents were born in the Caribbean, or in Latin America somewhere, and you can claim one of those citizenships. So this is an opportunity to check your family tree. We help people get citizenship by descent here. It's the only a la carte service we offer at nomadcapitalist.com/CBD. If you think you have someone in the family tree, that's going to be your most affordable option, but it could take 2 or 3, 4 years in some cases. So if this comes into place, you might be stuck. There's citizenship by investment in some of the English-speaking Caribbean islands and other places around the world. There's an increasing number of countries. You make an investment, you make a donation, you get a passport. Even for people who still want the option to be in Europe, there could be a 2-step process to look at some of the actual European citizenship options to where you could retain all the abilities to live in Europe that you have as a French citizen without having this. Will this spread EU-wide? I think it's certainly a much lower risk. But I said, and I've been saying it for years, some European country will eventually try and do this. It may happen with Lucy. Maybe Lucy gets in, maybe she doesn't. Lucy's, protege, 5 years later, 10 years later, will come in and do this. So at the very least, can you get citizenship by descent? Can you get some kind of paper residence? We talked about this at Nomad Capitalist Live. We help clients with those, where you just spend a little bit of time every year for 3 years in some country where you can get residence and you can work towards naturalization without having to always live there. Or maybe you just make a donation. Maybe you make a real estate investment. Maybe you make a bond investment to some country and you get the passport in 6 to 12 months. I've got numerous passports. At a certain point, it does become fun, but it gives me a lot of options. And I know that if the government that I've paid taxes to my entire life decides to do something objectionable, I don't have to just sit and take it. If you want to live in France, you're paying high taxes, and I suggest you pay your taxes legally. Nobody ever thought France was a low-tax place to live. If you live there, that's part of the deal. But if you decide, hey, I don't want to be here anymore, it's pretty sick. They're going to try and force you to stay there. And if you don't, they're going to force you to pay as if you stayed there and were using the services. That's the desperation I said was coming. It's here now. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Lucy. But yet another country has put the idea out into the ecosystem, and I think it's only a matter of time. So get your second passport. We help people do that. Whether you work with us or not, it's something that everybody needs to protect against stuff like this.